So I'm doing my topic presentation on why cities should be walkable. And real quick before we go over all the benefits and stuff like that of new urbanism, let's go ahead and define what new urbanism is. So new urbanism is living in a city or a dense area where there's parks, recreation, grocery stores, shopping, restaurants, and all sorts of public life and entertainment in a small confined area. And that generally helps reduce less greenhouse emissions, which is generated by cars, other means of transportation such as city buses having to go long distances. While city buses are more efficient than cars, they're still not the best way to get around. Another issue that we also face with going out and sprawling into suburbs like we do especially in most American cities is the deforestation and the future preventative action of building new state parks and other city parks in the area, because those are then occupied by private buyers who are turning that into subdivisions, and that also ties into messing with wildlife and preservation and stuff like that. The birds, their nests get torn down, the deer have nowhere to live but in the small forest and the subdivision themselves, so they're often put into danger of other situations such as being hit by cars and stuff like that. And then real quick, a lot of people like to talk about how do we benefit from it. Like, we talk a lot about how the environment benefits from it and how others do, but how do we personally benefit from it? Living downtown and stuff like that's not a horrible idea. I've done it myself, and in downtown you're pretty close to public transportation. We had a bus stop right outside. I could take the bus anywhere into Riverside and stuff like that. And then as well as you're in walking distance to stores and restaurants, we had a grocery store across the street. We had a YMCA across the street. We had 2 restaurants, I believe, that were in the building itself, as well as a park connected to the apartment complex. And then just a few blocks away, there was more parks, more restaurants. There was about a half mile down the road was Riverside itself, that kind of the strip area right there. And then as well as in places where it's dense, such as London and stuff like that, people out there, they experience less social isolation, because when they want to go out in public, they got to meet people, they got to talk to people, and that helps people who suffer or struggle with staying inside too much and not really going out and talking to people, because for most Americans, you can probably go the whole week with only interacting with a couple people, to whereas in other countries, you're supposed to get on the metro, you got to walk by dozens and dozens of people every day, so it helps people get out and kind of experience more and not be so confined. And then that kind of also ties in with exercising. So what a lot of people don't know is walking is actually really healthy for you, and when you walk in these big cities, you don't actually realize how far you're walking. You might say, oh, it's only 10 blocks. Well, that 10 blocks could be a half mile round trip, and you just walked a half mile without even really thinking too much or looking at it too difficult. And then if you're like biking or doing another form of exercise to get around, that also is really good. Like Amsterdam, for example, has the largest number of bikers in the world. There's even certain times of the day where they don't allow cars out on the street. It's really just people biking, walking to work, and that promotes an overall healthy living and lifestyle. And it's also very economical, and you end up spending less on transportation. You only fill up on gas once a month instead of twice a week. Sometimes for even some people it's 3 times a week, depending on how far your commute is. And then with the commute, you're also spending more time getting somewhere than you are being there. Many Americans they'll travel 30 miles a day is really kind of the average of how far an American commutes. While a European or somebody who lives in a dense area like New York or San Francisco or downtown Los Angeles or somewhere like that, they might only have to go just a couple minutes walking, or they might have to go 3 stops over on the subway. And even if they did have to go across the city, they can get there pretty cheaply or for free if you have the pass. And you can get there in a quicker amount of time than you can with a car. And then the same thing goes for biking and stuff like that, and places like New York and other populated cities. So on a more personal level, what can we do to make cities walkable? Well, there's a couple things. On the right side we got what we can do personally. On the left is what our city governments and state governments could do. Avoiding building new roads would be a huge way to combat the issue. At least here in Jacksonville, we have a lot of new roads being built out in the Julington Creek area, St. John's area, the suburbs, near Mandarin and stuff like that. And those roads are only adding into the cost to maintain them, the cost for the people to get them. It only creates more debt and more spending. And then with the new roads, we'd also stop the expansion of new suburbs. There's a lot of homes here in Jacksonville that are for sale in areas where people have moved out because that's where the money is left, and they go out to these newer areas such as St. John's and stuff like that, build these new suburbs that are only going to be there for a little time and stuff like that. It's not sustainable on an economical or an environmental level as well. And then with this, to attract more people to downtown, we'll be expanding small business and nightlife in urbanized areas. So that would be creating whether it be new buildings, putting in more apartment complexes or parking garages to attract visitors downtown without having massive sprawling lots. You build those parking garages and then stuff like that, and then repair what we currently have. Our downtown's actually really nice. We have a lot of buildings there that are really cool. It's just that nobody's bought them and nobody wants to buy them because it's expensive to repair them. They would rather tear them down instead of leaving the original brick and the very beautiful decor that we have down there. And then what can we do on a personal level? Part of it would help living in sprawling suburbs. We see a lot of people like to go out and they like to get these 5-6 story homes for a family of 3. That's a pretty big waste of resources when we can direct that to elsewhere that's going to be better in our life, such as buying healthier foods or taking vacations and stuff like that. And then partly what we can do as ourselves is live close to where you work and spend your free time. If you find yourself living or going to work in downtown and then hanging out around the bars and restaurants and the other amenities that places like Riverside and San Marco have, then you probably should look into living near there. It helps with the commute time, and there's no sense to live somewhere where you don't really go anywhere to. And then something we can all do is use public transportation or biking when applicable. Personally, I have a grocery store that is behind my apartment complex, and I'll skate over there in 2 or 3 minutes, and it's quicker to skate over there than it is to drive your car. And I'm sure that's true for many people, especially in areas where walking is a probability and can be done. People still choose to take the car, and that's a waste. And then something we can do is also spend our money at downtown businesses. That would tie in with help expanding like businesses and nightlife there, where we go in. We don't go to the restaurants that are Chili's in San Jose, because that's not a small business. You go to somewhere that's in Riverside, somewhere that the locals have put an interest and time into making something that we can enjoy. And then overall, it helps bring business down there and other restaurants open up and create even better space. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.